and yes, and and because you have tested, this interesting test that can somebody be hypnotized against his will and circulate inside of his moral, that's connect also our story, your experiences, and that's kind of fascinating thing what happens around this world, people doesn't believe that.
Yeah, and I demonstrated that on that Discovery Channel show. I was contacted probably a year and a half before that show, and one of the producers asked me, "Can you hypnotize someone against their will? Could you have someone kill somebody?" And I said, "Of course." And so they weren't sure that you could do it or not. So about a year later, they called me. I flew to New York. I hypnotized some of the people that work over in the production company. And I showed some demonstrations of removing fears and having them do some things they would never normally do. So then they contacted me back and said, we talked to every hypnosis organization. No one wants any part of it, they said, first of all. They also said no one really believes that you can hypnotize somebody to commit murder or do something against their morality. And again, I stated, of course you can. I mean, I think a lot of people don't know that because of, number one, the fear of losing control. Although most people's minds are out of control anyway. Most people have no control over this computer, the thinking computer or the emotional computer. And then also the fear of, can someone be programmed pretty quickly to commit murder or create a hostile action or a revolution or any of that stuff. So I went and did the show, and I didn't have any allies. I had all the hypnotist communities wanting nothing to do with it, and I don't care. I don't live my life for what other people think of me or what their philosophies are. I'm an experimenter. I'm a tester. So I like the opportunity of doing things that maybe are, on the edge, because how am I going to learn? How would I learn that I could hypnotize prisoners against their will to get the truth out of them and then erase their memories unless I had a chance to work for a defense department and hypnotize imprisoned colonels and generals and those kinds of people in Taiwan? So I did the show, and it came out spectacular. Not only the hypnotism part for committing the murder, because that's the easy part, but submerging someone in frozen ice water for 2 minutes with no physiological changes except the autonomic nervous system dropping down into a relaxed meditative state. See, and then you can't deny that. You can't deny the reality of a physiological scientific change simply through suggestion under hypnosis. And so that was the part I didn't think I could be successful in. So what was interesting, because I like to use my mind in a very powerful way, I didn't believe I could do it. I thought I was set up so that they can show the hypnotism fail on TV. And I think sometimes it's okay to have something not work out. If everything works out perfectly, then maybe people think it's staged. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I worked on 3 different people. I tried to create an illusion, because as because you've studied hypnosis, you've been researching this story since the 90s. So I tried an illusion, creating something that wasn't real, telling them the ice water was a warm jacuzzi. So I was creating a tactile illusion that didn't work on 3 people. I had one more person to work on. So I gave a direct suggestion, told them exactly what they're going into, and I detached from the emotional feeling. In other words, I separated the physical sensation that people might call pain. And it was an extraordinary demonstration. And this guy wasn't conditioned over weeks or months like some people do. I might have had a total, in between going to China and teaching and doing this show, I might have had a total of an hour working with him. So, it's pretty exciting now. And I loved your movie, by the way.
Thank you.
Fantastic movie. And done in such a real understanding type of way. Even the part where the detective walks in and they're doing the little stage thing, the clucking like a chicken and doing that little goofy stuff. because that's what people think. Oh, you're gonna make me cluck like a chicken, bark like a dog, or strip, or tell my own deep secrets. I don't have to hypnotize people to do that. They can do that anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, about my background, it's I was following. I mean, early 90s. I was following one of my friend. How he was using hypnosis with some people and doing interesting experiments. And then I somehow got very exciting about this possibility to learn human mind and myself also through hypnosis. And then I started to read. I read a lot of whatever I was able to find, and then I got some friend of mine as that they were ready to be my test people for that, and there was a period of some years I was doing I found also a few very sensitive people, as you know that there's around 15% people who are special sensitivity, and that's of course the stage hypnotists are looking for those people.
Yeah.
And then you can go further with them, also with whatever past life experience test, whatever. I've done all of that stuff, what we have been performing, and that's why I know this area so well. And then later, actually, I went for the education also. It was the holistic hypnotherapy education for 2 years, which was organized for the therapists. How you can use, kind of the trance stages, for healing. Kind of purposes, and that was more like the grounding work for my experience, what I have had, and I think so it was important. Even it came in the wrong ordering, but it's still, I think so it was important, that you do more humble, basic work. But I haven't ever acted as a professional therapist or hypnotist, but that's been all my background for my film director work, and then I found this extremely interesting story, as we wrote in the book also in the 90s, and I've been researching that since, and finally we were able to do it. And then I have had also a lot of other ideas to using hypnosis and also stories. And let's see. Somehow I'm linked with this. I trust kind of that there are certain purposes, in life with some people. I think so that's something, I have a connection that, it's important. I understand that so well.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And you have a, lack of better words, a fascination. Because fascination was some of the old terms used back in the days of mesmerism and animal magnetism. You have a fascination and a very interest in the mind, in the psyche, in what's inside this universe, I mean, this is the untapped universe. We talk about the stars in the sky and the galaxies. I mean, this thing people have just barely scratched the surface of what could be done. And I'm lucky because I've had a chance to do a lot of things that everyone told me couldn't be done. All these other top hypnotists can't hypnotize someone through an interpreter in a foreign language. You can't regress somebody back to a crime and get the truth out of them. I created the human lie detector in my work in Taiwan. I actually had the finger of truth in the air. So I had some of these tough cookies under hypnosis for about 8 to 10 hours when the government was interrogating them, the Secret Service, and their finger of truth was stuck in the air without moving, ideomotor response. But if they lied, it created a disturbance in their central nervous system, and their finger would twitch. So I created a human lie detector during the work on this secret mission. But the thing I'm real proud of, number one, my goal wasn't really for me when I did this thing, because I didn't want to do it at first, because, I could get bumped off, killed, or tortured, but it was okay. I accepted the mission finally, but my goal was to help restore the faith of the military. The military's reputation was tarnished. A really great officer, Captain Yin, who was going to become a general, was murdered. Defective battleships were purchased from France and money laundered in different bank accounts around the world. So it was a real high-profile crime that affected France and Taiwan. In fact, the minister of France, the head minister of France, Dumas, was found guilty of setting up this weapon scandal with the Taiwan mafia. So it was a great thing. I mean, to to be like to be the guy to get the truth out of these guys and then to erase their memories.
Yeah, what was your exact role in this situation?
I was the person that was going to regress him back to the event to get the truth out of him, and to gather all the information that the government could not get from these guys in prison, or the active officers or retired officers that were actually tortured to get to speak, and they wouldn't speak. Some of these guys, including the guy accused of the murder, they couldn't budge the guy, man. They could not even get any emotion out of him. I remember when I went to do this first mission in January 97, and I was supposed to hypnotize a guy that was accused of murdering Captain Yin. And they said they couldn't budge him. They said they had him at Captain Yin's funeral, and with the casket open, they were trying to get the guy to show emotion. They couldn't do it. He wouldn't crack. But after I did some processes to get him hypnotized, and then did some regression before I took him back to an event, by the time we started working with him, when he was back in 1993, he was bawling like a baby. He was giving him information that he never would have given them. And then I can easily erase or replace the memory. So after they came out of the trance state, all they thought I did was help them with the fear of being blindfolded or tortured. So I helped them psychologically, but I also was working for the Defense Department. So I did kind of a form of, I don't know if you want to call it covert hypnosis, but I had a whole setup of a story why I was there to help him. But once I got him in, we went to the crime, because I said, I'm going to help him solve this case. It's take no prisoners. I'm going to get the truth out of you, and this was my reward, man.
Yeah,
a gold plate of honor from the Department of Defense. So sometimes in life you got to do things not only for yourself but for a cause. And at the same time, I was introducing hypnosis as a viable tool for criminal investigation.
Yeah.
And since then, I've taught some of the police departments in America how to use investigational techniques under hypnosis for memory activation.
Yeah. So, but you mentioned in some interview that there was three secret missions.
Three secret missions.
But that was the one. What were the two others?
Well, the two others were one was in July. First, I came out in January, and I had two guys to hypnotize, and the stories of what occurred are pretty powerful. I won't get into all the specific details. But then I came back in July again to hypnotize again the lead suspect, and then a number of procurement officers, some private investigators that were hired to watch Captain Yin, because the government thought he was part of this $2.4 billion weapons procurement scandal. And then some active military officers. I hypnotized some active ones, and then another prisoner or two, just to gather information. They did not know what this case involved. They didn't know what the crimes involved, because the crimes involved a lot more than battleships from France. Involved the purchase of German minesweepers, the extortion of probably of hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's a huge crime. Secret tapes were erased. Phone conversations, military telecommunication conversations were erased, and it was my job was to find out what was on the secret erased tapes. And the only way I could do that was hypnotizing the guy serving a life prison that they were going to execute, but they gave him life, who was secretly recorded by Captain Yin, at this guy's home, Captain Yin was using this tape to keep him alive because he had all the things on all these other guys. So it was a way of keeping him alive. They still murdered him and threw him in the ocean. But he was also having an affair with... It's just a whole huge case. So anyway, so I went back in July and worked on it. And then I was asked again to come back in September. But this time, my agent that I was signed to for 5 years, who was the guy who set this stuff up, was trying to blackmail the government. He wanted millions and millions of dollars for me to come out, or he wasn't going to let me come out. You know, and believe me, I wasn't paid millions of dollars, but he was blackmailing the DOD, Department of Defense. So one of the colonels flew out to America to talk to me and my ex-wife to convince her to let me come back. And what she insisted was that they put out $1 million life insurance policy from Lloyd's of London on me for 10 days in case I got bumped off or killed. My ex-wife wanted to have some dough, you know. So so I went back and worked on the mission and was completely successful in getting everything they needed. And then I wrote a book on it. I started my book in '99. Mm-hmm. And I've changed the titles a number of times. I called it The Crime of the Century, Hypnotized. I also called it Secret Agent Hypnotist Who Killed Captain Yin. And, you know, I look at this case as something really amazing because it's the first case in I think, in any real country where a hypnotist came in to be a secret agent and to hypnotize prisoners against their will to get the truth out of them to help solve this case. That goes all the way up to President Dumas of France and President Lee of China. The biggest murder and weapons scandal in Taiwan and France history. That's huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a really interesting story.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, just to show you, this was my first book with Orman McGill. And Orman... I don't know if you knew Orman. Did you know Orman McGill?
No, actually, no, yeah.
Well, he was an amazing gentleman. He was the Dean of American Hypnotists, international, not just expert and scholar of hypnotism, but he was an expert in mesmerism, mesmeric passes, and Eastern hypnosis, as well as Western hypnosis. So he used a lot of Eastern, what we might call mystical, metaphysical methods and techniques. But he was always there for me. He was the only guy I can talk to about what I was doing, and the only one that kept telling me, go back and finish the mission. You got to finish this, you know. And so he was kind of, you know, on Star Wars. You ever see Star Wars?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, you know that guy Yoda, that little spiritual entity. That's what Orman was. He was my Yoda, you know. But he authored over 40 books on hypnotism and mysticism of India. He was real world renowned, and he befriended me because he knew the work I was doing in Taiwan when I brought the science of hypnosis to Asia back in 1994. So he knew all the work I was doing, and he was kind of like my father. There always when I was having meltdowns and things were getting a little, you know, dangerous and hairy. Also, so anyway, I wrote this book later on, Training and Techniques Manual. I'll just show you quickly. One of my last books was called Never Fear Dying Again. It's a book on death and reincarnation, which is really a good one. And then recently, because I've been in China teaching for 7 years, this is my first book in China.
Is it in China or in Taiwan?
In China, because I've been in mainland China for years teaching. But it's all based on neuroscience. Yeah. So this is my first book in China.
So you've been in both in Taiwan and also in China, in both places.
Yeah. Last 7 years, I've been teaching in China to doctors, psychologists, professors, and I've created brainwave charts for therapy. And then my last book just came out this last year in China, and it's called Life is Hypnosis.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.